whoever said less is more obviously didn't know what to eat. That's why today's episode is dedicated to gluttony. And my all-star, all-appetizer menu will have you pillaging your kitchen in a ravenous stupor, wishing that soggy bowl of cereal tasted like creamy foie gras croquette lollipops loaded with maple caramelized onions and dipped in a sweet and tangy Bing cherry glaze. Then we're making steamed pork belly buns with hoisin balsamico. And just when you thought it couldn't get any more tasty, we're making gnocchi poutine. Delicious pan-seared gnocchi smothered in a beefy gravy topped with melted camembert cheese. The spice agent reports on black bean paste.
Nadia, I gained 10 pounds just listening to the menu.
Yeah, okay. You've been soft since the beginning of season 2, bro.
Ya חתיכת כלום, almada!
Panos gives us the goods on foie gras.
It's so bad, it's good. But if Peter asks, I didn't say nothing, bro.
Hans teaches us how to stuff our faces like savages while still staying in shape.
Because it's Christmas, and I'm Polish.
It's not Christmas, Hans.
Oh, yes, it is.
You're binging on Nadia G's Bitchin' Kitchen. Woo! And it tastes good. Okay, so the cops are coming and you have to leave the country stat. But before you go, you need snacks!
Wrong intro.
Oh, no, it isn't. Because today's gluttonous menu is so sinful, you should be arrested and beaten savagely. Save. Let's get cooking. We'll start with some crispy foie gras croquette lollipops loaded with maple caramelized onions and dipped in a sweet and tangy Bing cherry glaze. First things first, cube 4 russets. Boil these in salted water for about 15 minutes until they're fork tender. Here, I've got 2 red onions that I've been sauteing in 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil for about 40 minutes. Just gonna throw in 2 tablespoons of maple syrup, give it a good stir, and that's that. Behold, the foie gras torchon. I love this stuff. We'll slice it into half-inch cubes. While I get this going, here's Panos with more on foie.
Thanks, Nads. Foie gras means fatty liver. Now, the creation of it may be shocking, but it's also so amazing that it makes you forget about the details. It's kind of like having a baby, but less rewarding and more spreadable. For those of you who never tasted foie gras, let me try and describe it for you. Imagine the rich texture and subtle sweetness of freshly churned butter, caressed by duck confit and prosciutto in a Korean bathhouse. Anyways, the torchon is my favorite kind of foie gras. They take the fatty liver and remove all the veins. Then they cure it in salt and cognac. Squeezing it, draining out all the moisture and blanching it fast. So all you're left with is that compressed, creamy goodness. It's the pâté of the gods, bro. In fact, I bet the ancient Greeks even have a god for pâté, with over 270 gods, 32 titans, 24 muses, 68 nymphs, and a centaur. It's hard to keep track of who does what. Me, I just feel guilty all the time. And that settles it.
Thanks, Panos. Our potatoes have been strained, cooled, and I've passed them through a ricer. We'll add our maple caramelized onions, 6 ounces of foie gras torchon, 3 tablespoons of unsalted butter, 4 egg yolks, a handful of minced chives, big pinch of fleur de sel, some freshly cracked pepper. Mix it up. Wow. When we get back, we're gonna finish these foie gras croquettes, get cracking on steamed pork belly buns, and talk about me. Stay bitchin'. Me, what a save at the beginning of the episode. I thought it was the fugitive one. When are we shooting that episode?
Never.
Oh, okay. Some people talk about gluttony like it's a bad thing. Not me. The way I see it, the more you want, the more you get. I grew up in a conservative Italian neighborhood. Don't get me wrong. It's not like the grass was greener on the other side. It was more kind of like the grass, the picket fence, and the rewarding career with dental that goes with it. I wanted to be a rock star. So while everybody else fist pumped to Ace of Base, I shaved my head to Rancid. And when I reminisce about those days, all I can say is, wow, I wish I remembered stuff so I could reminisce. Moral of the story, don't be afraid to blaze your own path and ask for what you want. You never know, that path may just lead to shiz. Back to our croquettes. Now I'm gonna use an ice cream scooper to make little balls out of our potato foie and caramelized maple onion mixture, dip in beaten egg, and then coat with honey panko. Now we're gonna fry these suckers. I've got some duck fat heated to 350 degrees. You could use canola oil, any oil with a high smoke point. But because this is gluttony, I'm going big with duck fat. To make sure it's at the right temperature, just throw in a breadcrumb, or in this case, panko. If it starts to sizzle, it's ready to go. Delicately place the balls in the fat. Leave them alone for the first 20 seconds or so, then shuffle them around so you get a nice, even brownie. Beautiful, crisp exterior. Oh, look at that color. Now that our croquettes are fried, we're gonna get cracking on our sweet and tangy Bing cherry glaze. Here I've got a pound of pitted Bing cherries. Throw them in a food processor. Add 1/3 cup of port and mash it up. Strain it via a wire mesh strainer into a sauce pot. Help it along a little bit. We're gonna add half a vanilla bean, foie gras is amazing with vanilla, and 1 cup of maple syrup. Turn the heat to medium-high and simmer for about 15 minutes until you get a nice thick reduction, thick enough to coat your wooden spoon. Let's plate this dish. Grab a croquette and dip it in this beautiful cherry glaze. Stab them with a popsicle stick. Bon appetit! The sweet and tangy Bing cherry glaze, crisp exterior gives way to our creamy foie gras, the potatoes, maple caramelized onions. This sucker's so good I'd eat the stick. The jewels, very hard to digest. Trust. On to our next dish, steamed pork belly buns with homemade hoisin balsamico. I love these so much that if I had to choose between making out with Clooney or scoffing steamed buns stuffed full of tender, juicy pork belly, man! I'd scoff the buns. What? He never called. Mama didn't raise no fools. Onwards, we'll start with the dough for the steamed buns. In 3/4 cup of warm water, add 1½ teaspoons of dry yeast. Mix it up and let it develop for a couple of minutes. In a food processor, throw in 1 3/4 cups of white flour, half a teaspoon of sea salt, and 2 tablespoons of raw sugar. Pulse a couple of times to mix. Get the food processor going and pour in the yeasty water in a steady stream. If you see that the dough is not coming together, you can add a teaspoon of warm water at a time to make it more gluey. Beautiful. And when I say beautiful, I mean really unattractive. In a ceramic bowl, add 1 tablespoon of canola oil and swish it around a bit. Plop in the dough, cover with plastic wrap, a tea towel, and let it rise for 1 hour until it's doubled in size. Pork belly time. Here I've got 2 pounds of pork belly. Start by scoring the skin. Now we're gonna make a quick glaze. Add equal parts honey, canola oil, and tamarind paste. Mix it up and slather it all over the pork belly. Now check this out, too cool. 2 Granny Smith apples. Cut them in half and place them in a baking dish. This is gonna create a bed for our pork belly. And these gorgeous bells. Add 2 cups of apple juice, 2 shallots, halved, 3 star anise, and a pinch of peppercorns. Pop this baby in a 325-degree oven for 3 hours until the meat is fork tender. After a quick break, we're gonna stuff our faces with these pork belly buns. The spice agent is gonna report on black bean paste, and we're gonna examine the ethical implications of gluttonous excess in the first world. Yeah, okay. Some people call gluttons disgusting. Me, I call them family. Maya, at the Jasias, asking for a second helping isn't rude. It's mandatory. We treat eating like a competitive sport, and 2 family members in particular are considered extreme athletes. Extremely unhealthy athletes. Anyways, my godfather Tony and my second cousin, also named Tony, are notorious scoffers. Last year they had a pizza eating competition, okay? And scoffed 9 pies each. Me, it was intense. We laughed, we cried, we watched that documentary about penguins. What? Got boring after a while. See someone eat 1 pizza, 2 pizzas. After that, there's no more drama. Only gas. Back to the pork belly buns. Poison! You can buy it, you can make your own. We're gonna make our own and I'm gonna show you how to do it. It's too easy. In a big bowl, mix 2 tablespoons of tamari, 4 teaspoons of aged balsamic. This is replacing the rice wine vinegar. 4 teaspoons of toasted sesame oil, 1/4 cup of molasses, a teaspoon of Chinese hot sauce, freshly cracked pepper, and 4 tablespoons of black bean paste. Here's the spice agent with more.
Thank you, Nadia. Black bean paste is a condiment. But condiment, spice, it's all the same when you drink in the daytime. You would think black bean paste is made with black beans and I don't have a gambling problem, but you couldn't be more wronger. Black bean paste is made from salting and fermenting soybeans, which in the process turn black. Just like my heart after 7 rejections for visa. No, 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 no. You would think I would understand by now. Sorry, visa man, not my style to understand. So I see you next year. And probably the year after that. So the beans, the fermenting process, the result is called dauchi. The flavor is pungent, salty, and bittersweet. It's so super strong, use sparingly. Like they say in America, don't fondle the cheese wizard.
Thanks,
יחזקאל מזרחי.
Don't fondle the cheese wizard. On to our buns. The dough is risen. Now, dust a clean surface with some flour. Plop down our dough and roll it into a snake. Cut it into 12 chunks. Now grab a piece of dough and roll it in your hands into a ball. Now, cup your hand like this and roll it super fast until it's nice and smooth. Now flatten them out with your fingertips and get all the air pockets out. Brush a little bit of canola oil around one edge and fold it over. The oil's there so they won't stick together. Place them in a bamboo steamer on a piece of parchment paper. Get some water boiling and steam these suckers for about 6 to 8 minutes until they're puffed. Let's get our pork belly out of the oven. Look at this gorgeousness, our caramelized pork skin. The apples have melted down. Remove the skin and the fat. You can choose how much fat you want to leave. And slice the pork against the grain. Nice and thick. Now slice it in half this way it fits in our mini buns. Let's plate this dish. Grab a steamed bun. Brush it with some of this porkalicious apple juice. Some meat. Fresh cucumber slivers for crunch, scallion greens, poison, tender steam. Never mind, it's too delicious to yap. Ah, Gnocchi poutine. That's Italian Quebecois fusion at its best. I'm talking crisp potato gnocchi smothered in a beefy gravy loaded with melty, gooey camembert cheese. That's what I call classy caolis. Let's start with the roux. Heat a small saucepan on medium. Throw in 3 tablespoons of unsalted butter and 3 tablespoons of all-purpose flour, and whisk. You want to keep whisking this for about 10 minutes until it's nice and dark and smells nutty. Beautiful. Take it off the heat. In a medium-sized saucepan, throw in 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. Turn the heat to medium and saute 1 minced shallot for about 6 to 8 minutes until it's nice and golden. After a quick break, Hans is gonna give us some diet tips. Topless, and I'm gonna attack a gnocchi poutine with my face! How's that for an original sentence? Although this episode's all about gluttony, let me tell you a little story about experiencing too much of a good thing. Doesn't seem like I have a story. You know why? Because there's no such thing as too much of a good thing. Who experiences this? Stop the massage. It's too much. Easy with that raise, huh? It's too much of a good thing. Whoa, with your 90% off Louboutins. Yeah, I can hear some smarty pants complaining. Well, what if you got like really obsessed with candied bacon and ate it like every day until you were sick? That's not too much of a good thing. It's being a twit. Come on. Our shallots are nice and crisp. We're gonna deglaze with a 1/4 cup of good dry red wine. And let it reduce for about 30-45 seconds until the alcohol's burnt off. Add 2 cups of organic beef broth, our dark roux, a pinch of fresh thyme, brown sugar, and some freshly cracked pepper. We're not gonna add any salt because the beef stock is already salty. Stir and let it simmer for about 15 minutes on medium until it's nice and thick. Here's Hans with some health tips.
Miss G, the biggest mistake people make when dieting is cutting out all fatty foods. Eventually, this type of deprivation makes you binge. That's why I advocate the work hard, play hard reward system. Make healthy food choices during the week and enjoy a few treats on the weekend. It's all about balance. Oh, and speaking of playing hard on the weekend, I once had too much of a good thing, Miss G. A few years back, I got this gig at this bachelorette party. These women were wild. One thing led to another. Before I knew it, they were taking turns.
Okay, thanks, Hans. Oh, we've got our water here, ready for the gnocchi. Very important thing when you're cooking gnocchi. Make sure that your water stays at a rolling boil constantly and don't throw in too many gnocchis at once. If you throw in too many, the water temperature is gonna drop and you're gonna end up with a soggy mushalida mess. So, schiaff in your gnocchi and boil for about 1 minute until they start to float. Once they start to float, boil for 30 seconds more. Now, because this is a poutine, we're gonna have to pay homage to fries a bit and crisp up these gnocchi. Get a non-stick pan heated on medium-high. Throw in 1 tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil and 1 tablespoon of unsalted butter. Get it nice and hot. And in a single layer, add the gnocchi. Now flip them over. Just got the patience for this, huh? Look at this. That's how it's done, son. Who flips like this? Let's plate this dish. Grab a nice shallow bowl and throw in our crisp gnocchi. And add little cubes of rindless camembert cheese. You can use cheese curds, brie, top it off with our beefy gravy. And attack it with your face. Crisp gnocchi loaded with this melted, gooey camembert and our beefy gravy. Beefy! Today's episode was all about gluttony, and we cooked up some dishes that were sick! Foie gras lollipops, steamed pork belly buns, and gnocchi poutine. Now, I know these appetizers may have been super rich, but as the old Italian saying goes, a platypus can never think twice.
Sorry, Miss G. Seems like we lost a connection earlier. As I was saying, these ladies were wild. They blindfolded me and made me play their pin the bell on the bride.
Alla prossima!